What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another episode of the Freshly Squeezed podcast. This is episode number 3. My name is Will. I'm hosting it this week. Joined as always by my good friends Ken.
Hey!
And Josh.
What up?
And yeah, let's go ahead and jump right into what we've been nerding out on this week. I'm going to save myself for last, and I'm going to start with Josh this week.
I take a big old sip. Okay.
What are you drinking there?
I'm drinking
Is that vitamin water?
some type of really nutritious liquid. It's good for you. It's kind of dark. It's amber colored. That's the best way to describe it without being any more specific.
It's got carbs.
It does have carbs and something with a percentage that we'll not talk about. So for some of the things I've been doing this week, I've been trying to finish the first book of Game of Thrones so I can watch the TV series. I've told myself that I gotta read the books before I can watch the shows. I know the shows are amazing, but I know if I go to the store and pick up the first season and start just watching it, I'll never pick up the books again.
So you haven't seen any of the show?
I saw the first episode.
Okay, just the first episode.
Just the first episode,
Okay.
because I was read enough through the book to where I can watch the first episode without, spoiling anything for myself. So
Okay.
I see the quality in the TV series. And it actually kind of helped for me visually because there's a lot of characters in the series. So it helps to have actually someone in my head as I'm picturing what I'm reading through.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I'm reading them too, and this is like my third or fourth time trying to read them. But I've watched all the episodes of the show, and to actually have a visualization of who these characters are, really helps the reading part of it too, I think.
Yeah.
Because at first, I would just get kind of bored with it. It's the type of writing that's almost too descriptive.
Yes.
And having actual faces to match with the characters also, like you said, helps keep track of all the different characters in the show.
So at this point, I could probably watch a couple more episodes, but then I'll probably just won't stop. I'll just keep going because
It's addictive.
I'll get addicted to it. Other than that, I just recently beat the latest Splinter Cell Blacklist.
Okay.
Played through that. I'm a big I like the stealth games. I feel like I get a lot of value out of it. I think I mentioned that last time. Finally finished it. The last mission was almost easier than some of the other missions throughout the game. And when I got done with it, I was like, really? Is that it? Is there something else? Is there a big boss fight or something really cool that's supposed to happen?
So it just kind of ends.
And it just that
It's in the
didn't really
DLC.
Yeah.
Wasn't much to it. There's some replayability. I could go back and there's these little side missions I could play that don't have anything to do with the storyline, and I can do different upgrades for Sam Fisher, get different loadouts for your character because you have a stealth one and you can have a combat one, and then they have another one. I forgot what that one was.
So can you go back in after you beat the game and still
Yes.
you're just walking around
So
at a
at the
little
end,
base or whatever?
once you get done with the game, it comes out to where you're pretty much at the menu screen where you can pick and continue. What are you doing?
It's on vibrate.
We still heard it. But you can pretty much go back, and the last point is you clicking on that final mission, or you can go through and play all the other side missions.
Okay.
Kind of thing.
I've played a little bit of that too, and I remember there's a ton of just base upgrades too that you can do, and they have the big map that you can kind of just pick your mission and stuff that you go on. But I always like the ability just to go back after I beat the game and just kind of play
the
it.
other stuff.
Yeah,
It's not taken seriously. You don't have a story progression to go through. After playing that, it really made me want to go back and play Ghost Recon Future Soldier because I like kind of the Tom Clancy games. It really made me miss Rainbow.
Why haven't they done another Rainbow Six?
I know, Rainbow
they had
Six.
Patriots, right? That was the one they were working
That's
on.
the
and it
one
got
that's
canceled.
rumored, and there's a lot of people are hoping that we see something from that at E3, but I mean, there's been so little talk about it. I don't know if we're going to see anything because I like that game. That was a really, really fun game when the Vegas and Vegas 2 came out back on the 360.
Yeah, the co-op was a lot of fun on that one too. Co-op was really good.
But let me ask you this, because I played Splinter Cell, but I haven't played all of them. I played the first one. And I
Double
played the
Agent?
second, yeah. And
So
no, like the original first one that came out for,
original Xbox.
yeah.
Okay.
And then I played the second one, which I think was like Pandora Tomorrow.
Pandora, yeah, I think that was the second one.
And then I tried to play the third one, and
Chaos Theory. See
Yeah.
that I've heard that's like the best one.
It is.
I don't know.
That's
I
the
got
best one.
bored with
That's
them.
the best one.
I probably did like the first mission. I couldn't do it anymore. And I haven't played any of them since then because you have the double agent, the
Conviction.
Conviction,
and
and
then
then
Blacklist.
this one.
Blacklist. What kept you playing with all of them? Because I couldn't get past. I mean,
Because I've never really heard about like the story aspect of it. It's all the thing I hear about it is like the gameplay. But I heard there's like an actual decent story that goes along with it.
Yeah, there is. It has something to do with Sam Fisher's daughter, and at one point she gets kidnapped, and that does happen in Double Agent. So actually, in Double Agent, she's presumably killed, but then later on you find her and she's been kidnapped, and you kind of go through that whole storyline. But then there's some kind of
a little late on the spoiler alert there. Sorry, guys.
Spoiler alert!
spoiler alert for a game that came out
Like 10 years ago.
7 years ago, 8 years ago, something like that.
You know, there's like one person who's like, I'm not going to play this game now. Thanks so much.
Like with the internet, I mean, you've got a week. You got a week when something comes out to get like the gist of it before, especially if you actively go on the internet.
Yeah, if you're listening to a
fault.
gaming podcast, we can't say spoiler every single time.
No.
You know, just be prepared. You
You're just
know.
gonna be like speaking
Now,
like
if it's
vague the
something,
entire time.
if it's something that just came out, like if we're talking about Wolfenstein or the new X-Men, Days of Future Past,
They all die.
Ken, or Watch Dogs that comes out tomorrow night. We're not going to spoil that stuff, but things that happened years ago, you gotta give it up.
So we're saying that since we do the recording like a week after, that previous Game of Thrones episode, I can go and like spoil everything on the podcast.
No,
Okay.
I don't think so. Just
Like, I can just see like this one kid, like he's like walking in the store to buy that game, Splinter Cell Double Agent. For whatever reason he didn't get it 10 years ago
for $2.99.
for $2.99, and then he's listening to our podcast and he's like, ah, damn it.
Why am I even gonna play this now?
No, I'm just joking. But go ahead. What kept you?
It's all about the destination too. The spoiler.
Yeah, it's the journey.
It's the journey.
So I think the thing I like about those type of games, because you can also include, say, maybe Hitman in that as well, kind of those stealthy type of games, it brings a different challenge to the gameplay that first-person shooters usually don't provide, because in other games like a first-person shooter, say Gears of War, Halo, you can raise the difficulty level, but it's still the same type of game, where in the Splinter Cell, it's challenging even at its like lowest level, because part of the mission is not ever getting detected at all, and they design it to where sometimes you're going to get detected and you're going to have to fight your way out of it. And in a real life scenario, I guess you're not going to be as efficient as a Ghost from Call of Duty kind of character or Master Chief.
You're not gonna get shot and able to like duck around the corner
Yeah,
and heal
so
up.
Sam Fisher gets shot one good time and he's down, and that's it. So you can go through there and have like a firefight and you can fight everybody off, but you're not going to be very successful at it, because they usually have like a dozen people in there, and a dozen against one, you usually lose. So.
Yeah, see, I kind of was on a 24 kick a couple years ago, and that really made me want to play Splinter Cell
Yeah.
like a lot, because I look at Jack Bauer is just awesome, and I look at Sam Fisher, like it's like the same person.
Kind of.
Yeah. So I was like, and I played Conviction. I was like, he is like the same person.
Mm-hmm. Besides that, I picked up the Far Cry compilation. Since they announced Far Cry 4, I never played Far Cry 3 in its entirety. So I'm gonna go back and play that with the DLC.
You gotta play Blood Dragon.
The Blood Dragon.
So good.
Yeah. So I played the demo of that, and I played Far Cry 3 multiplayer at a conference. So I like the game. I just never, for some reason, I just didn't buy that one. So I'm gonna play that one through. And then I recently got my hands on a Galaxy S5 and the latest Asus tablet. And for someone who's a diehard Apple person, I have an iPad right here in front of me, got an iPhone in my pocket. I was pretty impressed by those devices. They're really nice, and I'm afraid they may make me switch. But we'll see. I just got them, just been playing around with them. We'll see what happens the next couple of weeks. They're really nice devices.
It's blasphemy.
Steve Jobs is rolling his grave.
The Apple gods are gonna smite you.
Smite me. Erase my iTunes library.
Yeah. All right. All right, Ken. What you been nerding out on this week?
Well, I did pick up the new Wolfenstein New Order. Loving it so far. I haven't probably got as far as maybe some other people. I know we were talking about this earlier. This is not a spoiler, but this is a good tip for people that want achievements.
Are you sure?
Yeah, 50-50.
Are you really sure?
50-50.
Spoiler.
No, is if, it has a perk system, and the achievements are with the perks, and you can restart a checkpoint or restart a whole level, and you still keep your perk that you unlock and the progression that it took to get to that. So you can do a particular area if you find a good area to maybe farm stuff for your perk, and then you get the perk and then you get the achievement. So I played like the first mission probably like 20 times, just knocking these perks out, especially since I'm playing on Uber difficulty. I figured that might kind of help having these perks later on in the game. But the graphics are great. I love it when also too when you talk to someone, it goes into a short mini video clip, like a
little cutscene.
Little cutscene, as opposed to you just talking there on the screen. They actually incorporate that, and there's no like load time or downtime. It's like you talk to them, it goes straight into that scene, and then you go back out to where now you have control of the person. It makes it very streamless, which I thought was pretty nice. So.
Yeah, the achievements on the game are really nice. Like on the surface, you look at it and you're like, oh, it looks kind of boring. But since they're all like most of them are tied to perks, you're still doing a lot of stuff. You're varying up how you play the game to get the achievements or the perk upgrade. Which it's kind of what an achievement list should be, is kind of making you play the game all kinds of different ways than you wouldn't normally play it.
Well, as I was playing through the levels, a lot of the stuff that I did over and over again. In the chapter 1, I was doing it already in 2 and 3, so I probably didn't have to play chapter 1 again. I just wanted to. The way the game is set up is, like you said, they're gonna force you to use this perk somehow, in a nice way. I just wanted to get the perks out of the way personally. What another nice thing is too is you can actually, once you beat the game, you can also do chapter select. What I love in the shooter. And I think that's what I love about this game so far is the graphics are great. The story is great so far. It feels like a classic Wolfenstein game, but with next-gen graphics and abilities. But it's got the things of like where I can replay a chapter if I miss something, and it will go towards an achievement or just doing something in general. I don't have to play the game 2 or 3 times to get the achievement. I could play it one playthrough and then maybe 1 or 2 chapters do like a mop-up, so to speak. And because I don't know about other people, and I would imagine some people are like that, I don't get the luxury to play a game more than once. With time and just, A, I don't have enough time because of work, and 2, there's so many great games that come out that I do want to play. I can play one game like 2 or 3 times, and then the next game, that I want to play, I'm sure someone spoiled it for me. So I either already know the story because someone spoiled it.
Spoiler.
Yeah, spoiler. Or B, by the time I do get to it, they're already talking about a second one for it. So now I feel like even further behind.
It's like once you play it once, it's kind of predictable. Once you go back and play it a second time, I have a hard time playing games more than once unless it's like a really exceptional game. Or there's like a specific reason I want to go back and play through it.
Yeah, it's really hard because especially like a longer game, an Assassin's Creed or something like that. It's really hard to get motivated to play through that entire game again.
Exactly.
When you're not really going to see anything different.
Yeah, I don't have any problem going through and replaying Max Payne 3 just because of the type of gameplay it is, and it's a shooter game, and you can it's kind of and they have that kind of arcade style they can go with it with the point system. versus me replaying Mass Effect 1, something like that.
Right.
Or you might play Mass Effect 1, but what's going to motivate you to do all the side stuff? And then kind of what's the point at that point?
Yeah.
Because the side stuff kind of ties in with the main story. So I could probably count on one hand how many games I've played more than twice. And that actually leads into our main topic later.
Spoiler.
That's what we talked about.
It's not your call.
So, but I've been playing that, thoroughly enjoyed it. If you haven't picked it up, definitely pick it up. And something else that I happened to watch X-Men Days of Future Past the other day. It's like the first movie I've seen in the movie theater in probably a year, but me and my wife really wanted to watch this one in theaters, so we got
Did it live up to the hype? Did it live up to your expectations?
It depends on who you ask. I will say it's a great movie, but me personally, I felt like it was lacking something. As opposed to my wife, she thoroughly enjoyed it, and she liked it. She probably liked it better than I did, but I did feel like it was missing something.
That's like the first. I mean, most reviews on that one have been kind of positive.
Stop shaking your head at me, Josh.
I don't believe you.
You come in like, kicking over chairs, and this movie was terrible. Terrible, don't see it, it's terrible.
It has to be good. It has to be, right?
Well, you have to look at it from my point of view. I very rarely get to go to the movies for various reasons. Kids, money, whatnot. So I usually have to wait for them for DVD. Or I'll rent them, at Redbox or something. So when I see a movie in the theater, it's got to be good. It's got to meet or exceed my expectations. And X-Men, granted, it was a good movie. Well, I'll even dare say it was a great movie. But did it meet my expectations? No. And I don't think I have very high expectations. So.
I'm still going to see it.
Yeah, I'm still going to see it. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I'm not saying not to see it.
I appreciate your opinion. I really do, but...
I hope you're wrong.
Yeah.
But once you watch it, we'll have this discussion again,
Okay.
and we'll see what happens. I'm probably getting like 20 angry text messages right now.
See, I was more excited about this movie than like the next Avengers, just because of the way that the first one kind of rebooted the whole series. Made me really excited that they were going to take the cast from the original X-Men movies and the First Class and just throw them together in this like conglomerate of X-Men characters. I was super excited about Patrick Stewart and Hugh Jackman and all the new characters as well.
Well, I can't tell you because you
No.
haven't seen it.
Don't tell me.
Don't
I
say
didn't
anything.
ask you to, did I?
And I can't really say it here. I'm just giving you what I thought.
Glad you two are all the way across the table otherwise.
I'll come across this table.
I've never seen Barnes so angry.
This is me angry. Yeah.
I know.
Face is beat red.
I know. Your tone is
It's a little sassy.
yeah. But that's basically what I've been doing. Because I watched that and I've been playing Wolfenstein. I am going to pick up Watch Dogs when it comes out Tuesday, which it'll probably be out by the time this podcast is out. But
Since we're talking about your high level of expectations on movies, tell me about your expectations for Watch Dogs.
I think it's going to be good. Honestly, I didn't initially jump on the bandwagon when it first got displayed last year, where everyone was like, "Oh my god, it's going to be an awesome game." I was kind of like, "Well, I want to see a little bit more." I do like I like Ubisoft, especially Montreal. They do a lot of great stuff. They do all the Assassin's Creed. I love all the Assassin's Creed, except for the first one. I think they make a lot of great games, and on top of that, I see a lot of Assassin's Creed stuff in there. But I think I've seen enough stuff to where it is going to be different. I don't think it's going to be a rehash of an Assassin's Creed just in a modern day time.
What if that's what that's been this whole time? Is it's just going to be a big Assassin's Creed reveal at the end of the game? Like it's like tied in some way to the Assassin's Creed universe, and it just at the end it's just like, pah!
That'll probably piss a lot of people off.
Yeah.
That could happen, but I think that would be the wrong move because I think they would want to. There's nothing wrong with creating a game like Assassin's Creed because Assassin's Creed is an established, great franchise. However, you do want to have more than a one-trick pony, so to speak. but it doesn't mean you can't build on other foundations that have been successful and great for you. So I can see that it does have the open world environment like Assassin's Creed. There's going to probably be some similarities as far as like what you can do, climbing stuff and jumping and how you interact with the world. But I think they're going to take it a step further with, the hacking, and I'm pretty excited about people being able to invade my game, just to screw around with it. And not that their player is actually in there, but they can mess with like the lights or...
because they've got that companion app that's going with it that's going to let other people kind of mess around in your game and stuff and screw around with you.
Yeah, I think that's going to be
really
pretty
interesting
cool.
what they're doing.
I think I'm going to get upset, and I'm probably going to like curse at my TV. My kids are going to look at me weird, and my wife's going to yell at me for cursing in front of the kids. But I think that's going to still make an enjoyable experience because it's building on a great foundation, but it's adding something completely new on top of that. So it makes it fresh and something worth playing. So I'm pretty excited and looking forward to it. Now that the stuff that I've seen.
Yeah.
Like I said, when I first saw it, I was reserved. I was like,
Yeah, see, I'm almost the complete opposite. I was super excited about the game coming out whenever like the next gen systems were launching. That was going to be one of like my big ones I was going to get, and it's like something new to play on the new system. Mm-hmm. But now it's just like, I don't know, the hype train's been going on for a little too long for me, and it's just like it looks great. I'm still going to play it, but I'm not at that same excitement level.
Well, I think one thing I like that Ubisoft is coming out with a new IP for the next gen consoles within the first year it's coming out. We've complained already before in other podcasts about how we can't have these new games sooner. You paid $600, $500 for this console, and where are the games? Well, this is one of them.
Yeah.
So we have to. It's pretty nice that Ubisoft had planned this to come out with a next gen game on the. Now you can argue that they originally designed this game for the 360 and PS3 because it is coming out on 360 and PS3, and they're just going to port that over to the next gen consoles.
You're kind of seeing that when you look at kind of the graphic limitations that the game is going to have, like and how it's like locked at this resolution and this frame rate, compared to what you kind of expect out of a game that's meant for next gen.
Essentially, they were developing the game for the last gen consoles, and then the new ones got announced, and they go, okay, well, we'll just port it over.
Well, here's my thing about that.
Make the graphics a little shinier.
Well, two things. As long as the game is fun, and as long as the story is really good, I really don't care what the graphics are.
I guess you're paying the same price either way.
Yeah.
Because, we were talking about last episode about indie games, about how the graphics are kind of that of a side-scroller, or even some probably still on 8-bit, but I had a really lot of fun playing it. And that's ultimately what I'm looking at Watch Dogs. Do I really care that it's running at 1080 at 60 frames per second? No, because if you want to get technical, people, the human eye cannot fathom 60 frames per second. So that's what I always think it's funny. If you want to get a little nerdy, a little scientific out there, for all you people out there, the human eye cannot comprehend 60 frames per second. So does it really matter that a game is running at 60 frames per second when my eye is not going to fathom that? No. As long as the game is fun and as long as it has a good story, I'll be happy with it.
That's what it mainly comes down to. Is the game fun? Is the game worth your $60? I think this one definitely will be. It looks great. The story looks good, and you look like you're going to get a decent amount of content out of it. So, I don't know. I think it's going to be definitely worth picking up.
Yeah. So that's what I've been doing. What have you been doing, Will?
It's pretty much already been repeated, or already been said so far. I've been, with no new episode of Game of Thrones this Sunday, I've been kind of going back and reading some of the books and starting the series over and kind of comparing what I've read versus what they put in the show. And I haven't gotten too far into the book, but what I've read so far as what they put on the show, it really lines up like almost exact. They did a really good job with that, which is pretty much what I've been hearing so far. Is as far as that goes, the first season is pretty much spot on. After that, it starts kind of deviating a little bit for various reasons, but so far it's really cool, and I'm excited to see where it kind of varies up between the book and the show. I think that'll be kind of exciting to look at. And then I've been playing Wolfenstein as well. That one I'm really surprised with. I really wasn't looking forward to it as much as some other people were, but really pleasantly surprised. I was surprised by it. Pleasantly surprised by it. I'm having a great time with it. I started out on the Uber difficulty setting for the achievement purposes, but I've since had to turn it down because I was just getting way too frustrated with the game. I'm not that great at shooters anyway, so I'm kind of proud of myself for making it as far as I did before having to turn it down. But it's overall a great game. I really like the story. The graphics are good, and a lot of cool collectibles in the game that kind of add to the story of the game, and a lot of cool Easter eggs and callbacks to the other Wolfenstein games. Like some of the collectibles are like the golden chalices and golden items that you see in the older games.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to say it's kind of a spoiler, there's a cool little Easter egg in there.
Well, they've been posting it on every gaming website out there, so I think it's safe to say.
Okay, well, you can actually go back and play through one of the classic levels of Wolfenstein in the same graphical style. And I think that was a really cool little touch that they put in. You can really tell that the developers were a fan of Wolfenstein, the ones that were making this game. It's really cool. The only weird thing about it is it's the main character has one of those voices that's just kind of your generic main character voice in a gritty kind of action game where he talks like this. He's really, distraught and he's really hard and it's I
like rainbows and puppies.
Yeah, it's no matter what he's saying, I can't really take it seriously just because of the way he's talking. But other than that, I mean, I really don't have a lot of complaints with the game at all. Really loving it so far. And I mean, that's basically what I've been doing too this week. So that brings an end to our first segment where we're going to take a little break here. Make sure you follow us on the Twitter, like us on the Facebook, subscribe to us on the YouTube and on iTunes. We're on there now too. And we will see y'all back soon. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the main topic for this week. Originally, I had... Stop dancing, it's weird. I was going to talk about difficulty in games this week, but I decided to kind of put that on hold. IGN did a top 100 games of this past generation countdown, and I'm a sucker for countdowns and that kind of thing, so I was like, I really want to do one of those. So I talked to these guys, and we decided to do a top 5 games of this past generation, our personal top 5. So
top 500.
Top 500,000 games this past generation. So let's go ahead and jump off because that might take a little while. So let's just go ahead and jump on into it. We're going to start with Ken. We're going to start with your number 5. What was your number 5?
I was thinking about a lot of games, and it goes back to what I said earlier. I can count on one hand how many games I played more than once.
And we're doing a top 5, and you have 5 fingers.
Well, actually, believe it or not, some of these on my list I have actually only played once, but there are a few on here that I played more than once. But my 5, which I've only played once, was Fallout New Vegas.
Oh, that's a good one.
Something funny, and I'm probably going to get a lot of flack about this. I hate the Elder Scrolls series. Never got into them. Don't know why. But I love the Fallout series. I know it's the same people, pretty much the same, almost same gameplay style. One's futuristic with guns, the other one's, with swords and stuff. But something about the Fallout, I guess it's the story and the lore behind everything. I just really love the Fallout. And Fallout 3 was the first one that I played. I never played any of the originals. And I thoroughly enjoyed that. But Vegas, I'm a huge Rat Pack kind of a guy.
Terrible.
So Barnes, turn your phone off.
Your phone.
Whole Rat Pack, kind of like a mob thing. I really enjoy that kind of scene and that kind of atmosphere, and I really love that with the Vegas, how they kind of brought that into that. And that's the whole different clans you can get with. Mm-hmm. So I thoroughly enjoyed that one. That's probably because when I played Fallout 3, I didn't do everything. I mainly just did the main story. With Fallout New Vegas, when it came out, I literally did everything you could possibly do in that game. So granted, I didn't play it twice, but I don't know if you remember the guide. The guide was like the size of a phone book. And I literally, from start to finish, I did everything in that page and guide that you could do in that game.
Yeah, see, I like that game a lot too. I don't know, that game for some reason got a lot of flack. Whether it be it was glitchy or some other crap. I don't know. I didn't really encounter really any glitches in the game when I played it. I mean, I had to restart a couple times, but I mean, that's a Bethesda game.
Yeah.
You have that in every Bethesda game. Even like with Skyrim that people hold on a pedestal. I mean, I had way more glitches in that game than I did Fallout New Vegas. And it was done by Obsidian. It wasn't done by Bethesda proper, you know?
Yeah, I thoroughly, and I can't wait for Fallout 4 to come out. Hopefully, I know it's not going to be the whole New Vegas Rat Pack thing, but something about Fallout and New Vegas, I thoroughly enjoyed it.
The rumor is that Fallout 4 will take place in Boston.
That's what I heard.
That would be awesome.
That's what I heard.
Awesome.
It's a shame though. I think didn't the Bethesda say they weren't going to talk about Fallout 4 though at E3 this year? I think I remember seeing something that they weren't even going to.
Yeah, they said that, and they said it's not even coming out this year. It may come out next year. And to be honest, I'm okay with that because these are those type of games that
they're worth the wait.
Yeah, A, they're worth the wait because they're awesome, and B, you definitely want them to get as many bugs and glitches out of it as possible because it is a long game.
Yeah.
I probably put 200-300 hours into that game, and that's a lot of time for like someone with me, like I said, where I can only play a game once.
Well, that's one of those games too. You can just kind of sit back and relax while you play. Like you can just kind of like get really into the game when you start it, and you just kind of sit back and just kind of make your way through exploring. Mm-hmm. A lot of games are just like super adrenaline, like go all the time. This one you can just kind of play it at your own pace and still get as much enjoyment out of it as you want.
Yeah, it'd be pretty cool. I know they made Elder Scrolls into an MMO. It'd be kind of interesting if they could do that with Fallout, though I know it'd be kind of difficult, but I would look more forward to that than the Elder Scrolls Online.
Yeah.
That's just me personally.
Yeah, they got me interested too because I'm a big fan of the series too, to go back and try and play the older ones, even though I haven't. I tried, I just couldn't do it. It's a completely different style of, well, not completely different because it's the same RPG. It's an RPG obviously, but it's all like top down and isometric, and the game just visually hasn't aged as well as you would hope.
No, it was built on an older game engine.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, definitely.
So that's my number 5.
That's a good pick.
Thank you.
I agree with that. It's a good one. All right, Josh, what do you got? What's your number 5?
So my number 5, and I've had to go back and forth because I'm looking at my list, and originally I just wrote down my top 5 without actually putting them in order, but then you want me to put them in order.
No, put you on the spot.
I'm like, oh my god, which one do I do? So
it's tough.
So I think what I'm going to do is my number 5 will be Uncharted 2.
Ah,
that's a good one.
Yeah, I think what they did with the Uncharted series kind of led the way for some other great games that come out later on. Tomb Raider, for one that comes to mind, is for that kind of game style that they came out with. Uncharted, the first one was a good game, but they really kind of perfected the storyline with the gameplay and just kind of how you got invested with the characters in Uncharted 2.
Yeah, that one really that's done the best job. One of the best jobs is marrying like a movie and a game kind of together.
Yeah, the cinematic view of the game itself made you question, could video games turn into a good movie kind of thing, and they've bounced around the idea of having Uncharted as a movie series.
Yes, it's fun to watch too. My girlfriend she doesn't play games at all, but I was playing Uncharted 2, and she just sat down next to me and just was watching me play it because it's like you're watching a movie. The way the game is made, it's fantastic.
And just some of the set pieces that they put into Uncharted 2 was the one with the train.
Oh yeah,
and that was just like a great piece of a set piece in the video game. It's probably one of the best ones out there. That train one. They did really good in the third one with the airplane too, but I think it's kind of hard to top that train sequence.
It's like they tried to pretty much like emulate the train sequence in the third one, but
and not to say that Uncharted 3 wasn't a good game either. I just think Uncharted 2 was the perfected version of what they wanted out of the first one.
They had multiplayer on that one, didn't they?
Yeah, they started with the second one. Yeah,
did you try the multiplayer on that one?
Yeah, I did. It was really fun.
I heard it was good.
I had a lot of fun with it. you get to do all the same climbing and stuff, so you can climb up on top of the roofs or hang off the side of a sign and like take shots at people. They had like the propane tanks sitting around, so you could still pop those out. And they had like you can customize your character and do different upgrades and stuff like that. So I did enjoy it. It was really fun.
It's funny you bring that up. That came really close to being in my top 5 because out of all the Uncharted's, the second one was my favorite of all 3 of them, and that was really close. Like if I had like maybe a tie for my 5th or something, Uncharted 2 would be up there for me.
Yeah, so the way I did my list, I kind of just wrote down my favorite games and just kind of marked stuff out, and Uncharted 2 was on there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's such a good game. There's very little bad you can say about it.
I have a honorable mention that we'll get to at the end. But,
Yeah, we'll do honorable mentions at the end. That seems like something we'll talk about at the end. That'll be good.
yeah, there's Uncharted 2, number 5.
Okay. My number 5, I'm going to go with Mass Effect.
The first one?
Yeah, I want to say that's going to kind of represent, well, I'll go with the second one. The second one's my favorite in the series. So as a whole, Mass Effect as a series is my number 5.
Okay.
It would be higher if the third one, I don't like that game. I liked it until the last 15 minutes, and it's pretty terrible. But as a whole, though, the series is fantastic. That's one series that I've played through multiple times. And again, like I was saying earlier, that's a game that you can kind of play through and get a different experience with. You can do Paragon one way through and then Renegade one way through, and it's almost like a completely different game that you're playing.
Yeah, we were talking about on break the Citadel DLC and just how my experience was different than yours. And we started talking about different girls in the game that we could not have hooked up with, and then if you didn't hook up with them, they died. And I was like, really? I didn't have that. That didn't happen to me at all.
Yeah, and that's just great. Like how you can like have that game and talk about it with someone, and it's just like completely different, depending on who played it. And the story was awesome. That's what a Star Trek game I feel like should be like is Mass Effect. I mean, I'm gonna say that's like the best Star Trek game is Mass Effect. But yeah, it's really good. And even like with the third one, I played the multiplayer quite a bit on that one. Multiplayer was actually pretty fun.
It was really fun.
Yeah, I was going to say,
really good
I
job
actually
with that
played
one.
the multiplayer more than I did the actual game. Because I'd go and play the game, and I was like, man, I really want to play that multiplayer. So I'd go and play the multiplayer, and I was like, I got to get back to the main story. I got to finish this. And I would play the main story, and I'd be thinking about the multiplayer.
I mean, even to this day, you're having conversations with people about Mass Effect, and they have completely different experiences that I did. And you can go back as far as the very first one from, whether you're going to kill off Kaidan or you're going to kill off Ashley. And that right there just makes this big old web of different decisions that kind of branches off, because if you kill off Ashley in the first one, then she's not an option to romance throughout 2 and 3. So that makes you choose other people maybe to romance with, and it just kind of branches off from there. You mentioned Star Trek. Interesting fact, in Mass Effect 3, was it Mass Effect 3? I can't remember if it was 2 or 3, but there's when you go to the Krogan planet, Michael Dorn is actually the voice actor as one of the Krogans.
I think it's on the second one because you bring Grunt with you.
You're right. Yeah,
because you go with Grunt and he has to go through this little like trial
period.
thing. Yeah.
So Michael Dorn was in there. I was like, that'd be a great Krogan. Worf.
And they're Klingons pretty much.
Pretty much. Yeah, just an angrier Klingon.
And they, this series too had some of my, I'm a big achievement guy. They had some of my most proudest achievements was, I played through all 3 on Insane, beat them on Insane.
That's crazy.
It's terrible. But I did it, and I think the second one would probably be the hardest one. There's the final boss on the second one.
Yeah.
On Insane, I just got lucky after like my 12th time of trying to kill him, and I beat him. But yeah, Mass Effect, a solid number 5 for me. So let's go on with number 4. Ken, what you got for number 4?
Well, it's kind of funny.
Number 4.
Dun, dun, dun. Well, it's kind of funny that you brought up Mass Effect. That's actually my number 4. Believe it or not. Though I'm going to be specific on mine, it's Mass Effect 2. I like the first one.
Yeah, Will.
I like the first one.
Well, I didn't want to put multiples of the same series in my top 5.
And then
I will fight you right now.
The third one I thought was terrible.
It was great until the end.
Yeah,
the end ruined it.
Yeah, we won't get into that. That's a whole other topic.
Next week will be the Mass Effect 3 and rant.
But the second one, I loved it. That's another one that I didn't play it multiple times, but I did everything you could possibly do. The DLC, it's very rare that I do buy DLC for a game, and that's another topic in itself.
The Shadow Broker DLC from Mass Effect 2 was fantastic.
Awesome.
Yeah,
That's one of the best DLCs I've ever played on any game.
I think it had the best DLC, the best bang for your buck for a DLC, and it was one of those games like I would wait for. Usually I get a game and I'll get rid of it, I'll sell it, trade it, whatever, give it away. It was one of those what I'd keep because I wanted the DLC for it because I enjoyed it so much, and I did everything you could do in the game. And I did replay a couple of things. I don't replay the whole game, but there were certain things I wanted there to replay just because I was that curious what the difference would be in that particular scenario, or scenario, if you're an ass. And I just loved how much that it was different, and that just a simple sentence can change it to this. And I think that was their perfection. So that was my 4.
Yeah, I just remember like playing the DLC on that one. Shadow Broker, like, I just remember Shepard just punches the Shadow Broker right in the face, and that's like one of the best moments in the whole series is when that. And I've always like thought it'd be kind of a funny thing if, in just like an Easter egg that this. Your character is about to fight this like giant monster, and then just out of nowhere, Shepard just runs in and just punches it in the face and just takes it out. I was like, oh, that would be so awesome if that was just in like the next like Dragon Age game or something, like another BioWare game, and you just had Shepard run in and just punch.
He comes in like a knight suit and he just donkey punches somebody in the face.
Donkey punching, wow. Wow. Okay. I don't know if I want to see that, but. It might be interesting.
This ain't your kiddie podcast.
I mean, it is going to be. It would be an M-rated game anyway. So I mean, why not? Why not have donkey punching in the next Dragon Age game?
We don't condone punching actual donkeys.
But we don't. We're not saying not to do it.
No donkeys were harmed in the making of this podcast.
Yet.
The night's still young.
But yeah, and then with the second one you're talking about, the second one really does the best job as far as mixing together the gameplay and the storytelling.
Well, I really
BioWare
felt
does
like
really well.
That whole last mission.
Yeah.
Yeah, the suicide mission was intense. Like, there's so many times I made it through with everyone surviving. There was a couple times where someone got shot or almost didn't make it. I was like, oh my gosh, it was like intense.
Part of it was almost random too, in a way. This depends on who you pick to be like the leader.
Yeah, I remember playing through on Insane on Mass Effect 2, and I did everything in the game and set everything up to where everyone would survive. And I think Morden ended up dying on it because there's like still just a random chance that someone will die. Mm-hmm. Either it'd be Morden or I think it was Morden or Tali, because they're the two weakest like defense in the game, so they still have a chance to die.
Well, like you said about the story, I really felt like every decision that I made would have some form of repercussion, whether good or bad. So I constantly calculating, made sure I did everything, and I enjoyed that. I thought my decisions had an impact on that game, and I kind of think they just lost track of that in the third one. Yeah. Again, we won't talk about it, but
so I think the third one had a different writer than the first two, and I think I remember hearing that. And
I think the writer went to Naughty Dog, didn't they? Or they went to...
I don't remember what happened, but it was a different person writing it.
Totally joking.
And, okay. And then they would... and then it seems like they just got to the end and they were like, I don't know how we're going to pull this off, so we'll just say A, B, or C.
Yeah, even though we promised not to do A, B, C.
It was the exact same ending that Deus Ex Human Revolution had.
Yeah, we won't go into this.
The same thing. Okay. Well, okay.
That's my top 4.
Okay, that's your number 4. Josh Barnes, number 4.
So...
He's going to say Mass Effect 2.
Yeah, I thought about it. Certainly thought about it. So I'm going to go with Red Dead Redemption.
Ooh.
Oh, that's a good one.
That's a good one.
That's my number 4. And it almost might have been higher, but for what they did with the Western genre that not a lot of games have done before.
Genre. Okay. That's what I said.
Genre.
For them to take that Western style of gameplay and then incorporate that into a Grand Theft Auto type of open world sandbox gameplay with a compelling storyline that you actually were interested in and were interested in the character, I mean, it did a lot of things, really well, and it's still a game that still sticks with me, even though it came out so many years ago.
Yeah, it's aged really well too. I played it maybe a couple months, like 2 or 3 months ago. Just randomly just put it in and started playing it again, and it still looks really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rockstar did a great job using the engine to make it look good. And I think that game is kind of Rockstar storytelling at its finest. That's got the best story in any Rockstar game.
I mean, for this last console cycle, they started doing more compelling storylines with Grand Theft Auto 4, and that almost made it on my list just for what it set up later on, because that set up Red Dead Redemption, that set up Grand Theft Auto 5, and you can always also LA Noire kind of way too. They kind of set up all those games as far as what they're trying to do for a video game, what they're trying to make for a video game.
Yeah, because like you said, like Western stuff, they really ended on like Gun. I think Gun was really good, but that was like the last really good. I think Call of Juarez Bound in Blood was fun too. That one was good. But that's about it as far as Western games.
Well, Gun was good, but it was incredibly short.
Oh yeah,
you could beat it, and probably at the time it takes you to eat a pizza, a whole pie of pizza.
What pizza?
From where?
Like the Beast?
Maybe Papa John. I like Papa John. Anyways,
that's not product placement either. That's an honest opinion.
That's honest opinion. I am not endorsed by Papa John's. I do like Pizza Hut and Domino's as well.
They need to bring back that cheeseburger pizza.
Oh God, that thing was nasty.
So good.
But back to video games instead of pizza. So yeah, it was a great game. I hope they do another one. I think they're going to do another one just because of how successful it was. So yeah, Red Dead Redemption number 4.
All right, number 4 for me is going to be Dragon Age Origins.
Ooh.
That's a game I've played. I've probably played through that game about 5 or 6 times. Like, I totally obsessed with that, got all the achievements on it. And again, that's another game like Mass Effect where your decisions really affect the outcome of the game. And another one that had really good DLC that tied into the story and got you really excited about the next one. And I'm just saying Dragon Age Origins, I'm not saying the actual series is in my top 5. Dragon Age 2, not so good, but Origins is fantastic. Graphically a little rough. They had been working on the game, I think, for about 6 years before it came out, so it looked a little older.
Yeah,
but
it was on an older engine.
Yeah.
Well, plus two, it was initially made for PC only, and then they converted it to console. So I'm sure they had some difficulty in that as well too.
Yeah, I think it's the successor to the Baldur's Gate. The BioWare's Baldur's Gate series.
Yeah, like a
was Dragon Age Origins and
spiritual successor.
that's it. And then that's the phrase I was looking for.
That's the fancy word.
Oh man, this vitamin water is really it's kicking in. But yeah, if you look at PC, it's got the same style of gameplay that the Baldur's Gate game had with the top-down view and the hotbar at the bottom. But yeah, then like the story is fantastic in the game. It had a great villain. The Archdemon was just badass. Super all-powerful, just nasty-looking dragon.
Yeah.
And again, like the DLC just kept kind of wanting more from the story. It did a great job of telling you more, but having you wanting more at the same time. And then, like, the combat system was great, challenging, but fair at the same time. All the characters, just like in most BioWare games, it's the characters are the star of the show, and no different in Origins. The characters are fantastic.
Alistar,
Morgan was great.
Her mom,
Freya, yeah. Flicka.
Interesting fact: Captain Janeway. That was her.
Really?
That was her voice.
Interesting.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And we were talking about Catherine Janeway earlier.
Yeah, Captain Janeway. She was the voice
Captain
of
Janeway.
Who's Captain Janeway?
Star Trek Voyager. Star Trek Voyager.
What's Star Trek Voyager?
You're terrible.
I thought that got canceled after like a couple episodes.
That was like 7 seasons.
It was that good?
Oh my god.
I'm teasing.
Enterprise was the one that lasted 1 season.
I'm trying to see how frazzled I can get Barnes.
That was 4 seasons.
I thought it only lasted 1 season.
That was 4 seasons, and they're excellent. They're all excellent.
I heard they were good.
Yeah.
Scott Baio was a good captain.
I'm trying to frazzle Josh.
Why do you keep touching me, though? It's really weird.
The Gollum character, I liked him.
Gollum was good. The twist that Gollum's actually a girl
Yeah.
that you didn't. And like I remember like that conversation happening. Like, what? And then like Warren's like, I guess that makes sense. It's fine. And then there's a whole conversation about bird droppings with Golem that was really funny. It's one of the few games too that just made me laugh because the writing was so good.
Yeah.
And then they just kind of messed it up with.
Have you gone back and played that recently?
Not in a while, no.
Okay.
No, I did beat I went back and did the the Golem DLC.
Mm-hmm.
I forget what it was called, but it was the second to last one, I think. And I got the last achievement on that one was beating the boss on hardcore difficulty.
Yeah.
Which is ridiculously hard.
I
kind of had to cheese the game.
I hadn't played it in a while, so I was kind of wondering, like, since it was made on an older graphics engine, like how it aged.
I'm sure it doesn't look good.
Yeah.
Especially, I remember the first part in the game, even when it came out, like the first, first couple sections of the game looked pretty rough.
Yeah.
But then I remember, like, as the game went on, it started to look a little better. I guess they were touching up the graphics as they were going.
Like certain scenes.
Yeah, it looked pretty good.
I think the whole setup of the Blight and the Grey Wardens, I just thought was just such a cool fantasy that they set up. But they didn't really. Of course, we can get into this in a different podcast. But how the Grey Wardens was such like a badass kind of thing, and then they didn't even like hardly ever touch it in the second one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We won't get too much into
Yeah.
it, but it's like I agree. And Dragon Age Origins again almost made my top 5. Not the second one, but the Origins, just because of how great I thought it was, even with the bad graphics. And again, that goes back to what we were talking about earlier. I don't care what the graphics are. If the story's great and it's fun to play, I'm gonna enjoy it. And I thoroughly enjoyed that one. But yeah, the second one, it's like, hey, here's all this cool lore and this story and background, but we're not going to talk about any of that. It's going to be in the same world, but forget everything that we just told you.
It's like you have this main conflict going in the second one, and after the end of the second act, it's like done, and then you have this whole other act to play through, and there's like a whole nother like enemy that you're fighting. I hate it when games do that, but again, another time.
This is the troubles of doing a top 5 or top anything really.
Yeah. So we'll go ahead and move on. Dragon Age Origins is my number 4. So we're gonna crack the top 3 now. So Ken, what's your number 3 in your top 5?
My number 3, Batman Arkham Asylum. And I guess if we're going to actually the whole series, but the reason
Except for Origins, right? You hated Origins.
I love Origins. Josh was talking about earlier where we apparently had this made-up conversation about how I didn't like Origins, and I loved Origins.
2 things. 1, it wasn't made up. 2, that's what you said.
It's pretty rock solid evidence.
Yeah, he can't tell me the date and time and place where this conversation took place.
That's irrelevant.
But it happened.
It happened. Maybe in his sleep.
Josh was dreaming about you.
Yeah. But I love... the reason I say Batman Arkham Asylum initially, because I think that one is what revolutionized it. The second one was great, Arkham City, and Origins was great as well, too. But Arkham Asylum is just... It blew everyone's mind. Remember when it came out, and it was like, oh my god, this is a great superhero game. Because look at all the ones before that, other than Marvel Ultimate lines, but an actual dedicated to one superhero. We won't talk about Superman. I don't think he's yet to have a good game. Spider-Man's were kind of hit and miss.
We talked about that last week.
Yeah. And Batman was just a rock solid. It's just, look how they redefined the characters. The Joker.
It was rock steady.
That's what I said.
You said it was rock solid. I said it's rock steady.
I thought you were saying the game was rock solid.
And I was making a pun saying it was rock steady because that's
I said all of the above.
because developers were rock steady.
Yeah.
A rock solid game made by Rocksteady.
Yeah.
Dun, dun, dun. But yeah, look how they, Bane. All of them, all of the villains, how they just, I thought it was a great,
the voice actors, Kevin Conroy and
Mark Hamill. Oh yeah, they did a great job.
I thought like the Arkham Asylum, I think that was my favorite story out of all of them, just because it's not as big as the other ones, so it kind of kept the story more on focus. Like you were moving through the story at a decent pace, whereas the other ones are kind of, incredibly huge and open, and that's what she said. And then there's almost too much side stuff going on, and you get really distracted. But Asylum, you're it seems like it's almost just heading you on the path, and you're doing the side quests like as you're going.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, in City, when you're going around, it's like, oh, there's this thing happening over here, and then you get a radio call, this is over here, and yeah.
And you kind of forget what the main story is.
Yeah.
And even in Origins, loved it, but what I'd have to say about it is I didn't like how they did like some of their challenge modes where you had to go in order, and there was even specific places where you had to do it. So if you missed out on that opportunity, you'd have to play the game all over again to get that challenge. And again, for me, where it's very rare that I play a game more than once, and this is not a game that I played more than once, I thought that was kind of frustrating. But as a whole, story was great, graphics were phenomenal, and it felt like I was playing a comic book game.
Yeah, again, that's when I booted up a few months ago, and it still looks really good on the 360, not the PC version. It still looks really good.
Mm-hmm.
It looks really good.
So that's definitely my top 3.
Okay. Number 3 for Ken is Batman. Let's go with number 3 for Josh. What you got?
Sorry.
Get your list out. You got to be ready.
I didn't think I was next. All right, so
Vitamin water.
Vitamin water, man.
My number 3, Fallout 3.
Ooh,
nice.
Copy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised that some of our top 5 are kind of run together in some ways. I think the reason that I liked Fallout 3 the most was because what it did for the industry when the new console games came out, of how much content you can pump into the game. And that's one of the things I liked about Fallout 3.
Quality content, too.
Yeah, it was
quality
content.
content.
You had so much stuff to do, and I never got to even all of it. But there's so much stuff to do in a great setting of a lore that's been developed for years before that. And they took this and developed into this, full-on immersive world of, you're trying to, and then with a good storyline too.
Yeah, and I'll kind of discuss this with you. Fallout 3 is actually my number 3 as well.
Okay, so let's just
that's
let's
my
just keep
number
it going.
3.
Let's just keep
that's
talking
my
about
number
it.
3 as well. Just because, again, I played Oblivion. I think Oblivion came out before Fallout 3, and this is the first time I played a game like that. And I thought Oblivion was really boring, incredibly boring.
It was tough to play.
Yeah, and
in some
then
ways.
But Fallout 3 though, it had that nice sweet spot of the open world, just kind of explore at your own pace, but a really engaging story. And you had Liam Neeson in the game, so I mean that always helps.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. Yeah. Liam Neeson, voice of the dad.
Let me ask you both this.
No.
So, no. So why Fallout 3 instead of New Vegas? Because with me, it was actually, I was trying to decide between Fallout 3 and New Vegas, and ultimately why I went with New Vegas was because of the whole Rat Pack and mob thing, because I really enjoyed that. So why would you say with you guys that you picked up Fallout 3 instead?
I think Fallout, like I said earlier, New Vegas is a fantastic game. It's just 3 had a bigger effect on me than New Vegas had, just because, like I said, it's that first experience I had with that kind of game that I really enjoyed.
And Fallout 3 came first.
Yeah.
It hadn't been done before. Fallout New Vegas wasn't a numbered Fallout sequel. I mean, there's a reason why they call it New Vegas.
Yeah, and it's still,
the new one's going to be called Fallout 4.
It's a huge game, and I really enjoyed New Vegas, but it just seems like 3 just has like this certain magic with it for me, where again, my first experience with that kind of game that I enjoyed, and I remember just sitting down and I did everything with it. I was engaged with that entire game the entire way through. New Vegas, there was a couple times where I kind of was disinterested with what was going on, and but yeah, just 3 was just fantastic.
I like
all the way around.
the location for Fallout 3 set in Washington D.C.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a really great location to put like a post-nuclear setting for for the game for Fallout.
It was cool, like walking around DC when you see like all these monuments, that
actual locations,
Mhm.
and stuff you can point out to.
I don't remember like New Vegas had like anything like that. It had like recreations of that stuff, but
Well, some of the
Yeah, Hoover Dam.
Hoover Dam, but also some of the casinos, they had a lot of, I guess you could say, Easter eggs with that, in a sense that a lot of stuff that they had in the actual strip was, actually in
There.
Vegas and stuff, and a lot of the signs that they use. Some of the names might have been different, but the actual layout and design.
yeah. I mean, there's nothing though that like measures the when you see the Capitol building like all disheveled and broken down, and you get to go in and explore kind of what's in there now. I mean, that was just awesome.
Yeah.
And then the ending was kind of like lame at first, where it just kind of ended and you couldn't go back and play.
Yeah.
But they fixed that with the
did
DLC,
DLC.
Brotherhood of Steel DLC.
Yeah.
Went back and fixed all that. That's another one that had, in New Vegas, had really good DLC.
It had great DLC.
Definitely worth picking up.
Did you play the spaceship one?
Yeah.
That was really fun. Like, it wasn't, it didn't follow the same storyline as Brotherhood of Steel or the other ones, but just the fact that you got brought up in a spaceship and you got all these like alien weapons you can take back with you once you get done with the game.
When I went back down there, I just used the alien weapons the rest of the time. I had like this little laser pistol that disintegrated everything it shot. Like a super mutant's running at you and just like shoot it and it just dust.
Pew pew.
Yeah, you got pew pew. Yeah. There was one called like a pew. There's the pew pew gun. I think that's what one of them was called.
Yeah.
And you didn't even have to be at the DLC. I think it was before the DLC came out. You just went to the crash site of the alien spaceship,
and you can pick up some weapons.
You got the pew pew gun,
but they only had so much ammo.
The ammo was limited, but then because I used that in the main game, and then I got the DLC, and I got all this ammo.
Yeah, you got tons.
Yeah,
of it.
But yeah, it was. So I agree that's my number 3 as well as Fallout 3.
Awesome.
So we're gonna go number 2 now. Ken,
Number 2.
What's your number 2?
All right, so this game I have played more than once, and I played it several times. In fact, I played it, I believe, 3 times total, which again might not,
not just once,
not just
not
once,
twice,
but
3 times.
times.
Wow.
Borderlands, the first Borderlands.
Okay.
Loved the second one, but again, the Borderlands, going back to what you talked about with Fallout, it was something new, and I love the shell shade. Cell shade. There we go.
It's a tongue
Seashells
twister.
by the seashore. Is that how you...
Seashells by the seashore.
Seashore.
Swanson. Anyway,
Samsonite.
Borderlands.
But Borderlands, just the colors, the different weapons. I thought that was great that they actually had AI built into the game that would generate new weapons. No 2 weapons are always the same. Like, you can have 2 pistols, but they would have completely different stats. And that just blew my mind. And I thought it was funny, originally, some people might not know, is they were going to create weapons. They're like, well, why don't we just have it randomly create weapons for us, as opposed to having some guy go in there and trying to think of different weapons, the same old. They actually thought outside the box, and this was a new IP. This was something new at a time where a lot of stuff, people were repeating things.
Yeah, that's they kind of took that whole mindset of a loot-based game like a Diablo, but made a first-person shooter, which I don't think anyone had ever done before. Like you were saying, it was new.
Yeah, it was the first time they've ever done that. The story was great. It had like a lore. The only thing I have to say bad about it is a lot of the scenes, felt the same. But again, great story, great weapons. I had so much fun. It was like you said, Diablo. It's like a kid in a candy store. Every time some loot drop on his weapons, like, ooh, is that something new? What stats does that have? And I'll compare it to the other one. Oh, this one has fire, but this one has acid. But this one has a scope. This one doesn't. I don't know. I'll go with the scope. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna go with the scope. And then I sell one. And be like, oh no, I should have kept it. It was great. It is so much invested in that, and that you could just. The story was hilarious. We won't mention some of the names of the villains on there, but the names of all the main bosses were hilarious. And it had that system to where the areas that you went progressively got harder with your level.
You got better loot for it.
Yeah, and then just the DLC, talking about DLC, great DLC with it. And it was a great game that you can play with friends. It upped the difficulty setting. You got better loot. Look at Moxie's Thunderdome. A lot of people... Is it Thunderdome?
Underdome.
Underdome, sorry. Moxie's Underdome. I thought that was fun. I got a lot of flack that it wasn't true DLC, but I enjoyed it. And the first time I played by myself. The second time I actually played with my brother, and I had more fun playing it with someone than by myself. And then the third time I played with just random people, and that was an enjoyable experience too, that I could literally play with anyone and enjoy this game.
Yeah, I played. That's the only one of the 2 that I finished. I never finished Borderlands 2, even though I think it's overall the better game. But the first one, I went through it and did all the DLC and very few times in the game I was bored. Like, I was always having fun with it. I didn't do I just played through it by myself mostly. But yeah, I really enjoyed that game as well. Did you play it, Josh?
Yeah, I did play. I played both of them. I like how the weapons, just the random weapons that they're going to create for you. I think that I would like to see more of a. Be curious to see what they do with the next one.
Pre-sequel.
Yeah, I mean, and obviously they'll probably keep the cell shade, but then they're going to add. Something's got to be better with it. It's going to be on a new console. Something's got to be, has to be better, and you kind of wonder what's up.
Oh, it's all on. It's on 360 and PS3 only.
Yeah.
It's not on next gen consoles.
Yeah, it's the only thing that kind of makes me upset about that. Is that it's not going to be in a next-gen system, but they've said why and whether we agree with it or not. But bring up another point.
I'm talking about when they do come out with the next-gen one. Mm-hmm. They took away they lowered the graphics with the cell shade so that they can have more content in it with the weapons and the auto-generator for the weapons and then like the maps itself. Mm-hmm. Eventually...
Yeah, it's hard to see how good cell shading can look ultimately. Whereas if you decide to go with one more realistic graphical style.
Well, here's another thing too. Claptrap. He's such an iconic character now. It's like almost everyone knows Claptrap, and he's such a great. Oh yeah, right.
Who?
Yeah. We'll play this game, sir. I
mother.
liked Origins. Okay, it was a good game. But seriously, Claptrap. Did you not like him?
He was funny.
Yeah, he was funny.
Yeah.
You just have like well, they kind of did that. It's a Claptrap DLC. They already did that. They already had a Claptrap DLC. But yeah, Borderlands is good, and that's going to be one that they can always keep making new ones. And you can't really mess the formula up. As long as the games have all been clever and funny, as long as they keep that kind of style up, I think it'll be, you'll see many Borderlands games in the future. All right, Josh, number 2.
So my number 2... is Mass Effect 2.
What?
So I got a lot higher than both of you. But I'm a huge Mass Effect fan.
But you're a huge Star Trek fan.
And a big Star Trek fan. So I've always wanted a epic space odyssey type of game, and this one really delivered on it. We got hit on all the points, the decision making, the combat improved a whole lot better than the first one and the second one. Mm-hmm. I think Mass Effect 2 was really what was supposed to be for Mass Effect 1. Mass Effect 1 should have been more like Mass Effect 2. I think that's what their goal was. It just didn't quite translate on there. But, Mass Effect 2 is kind of their perfection of that.
It seems like the epitome of Mass Effect was with 2.
Yeah. Now, they did improve the combat a lot in Mass Effect 3. So I like the combat system better in Mass Effect 3. And I do like the RPG options you had in Mass Effect 1 that they eliminated for Mass Effect 2. But overall, Mass Effect 2 is that kind of perfect game. As we're actually in my basement recording this, and the only one game poster I have is one of Mass Effect 2 over there.
Not even hung up, though.
It's not hung up yet, no. I had to...
You got to find that perfect spot for it.
It's got to find the sweet spot.
Yeah. So that kind of tells you, where I place Mass Effect 2 in my heart, and that's right there.
That's one of the few games. Like I said, it's it was my number 5. This is my top 5, and that's one of the games I still kind of think about. I think about the suicide mission, all the crazy stuff that happened in that, and Miranda. Oh my gosh.
Miranda.
Oh my.
That ass. So yeah, that's
the one that got away.
The one that got away. Yeah. So it's a good pick. We've kind of talked about Mass Effect quite a bit.
We have. I just really want to see what they're going to do with the next one, and I hope they.
Well, there's like so much because that's one of the only games you could see them doing even like a TV series off of.
Oh yeah.
Not even just a movie, but a whole TV because there's so much backstory and lore that they have.
The lore that they have is. The lore that they have is just as much detailed as Star Trek or Star Wars. Mm-hmm. BioWare does a really good job with that. Look at the lore with with Dragon Age, kind of the same thing. I just hope if they're going to do anything with Mass Effect 4, is that they bring back a touch more RPG elements and the decision making. And I think with the next gen console systems, the way that you can program and they're so much more advanced, that they should be able to add in tons of decisions in there to where it's more like Mass Effect 2 for every game, essentially.
Well, you said earlier, Will, that we've talked a lot about a Mass Effect, but I mean that should say something, that because all three of us have different taste when it comes to video games. I love shooters probably more than anything, but I do play other stuff, obviously Fallout, Dragon Age, Mass Effect, things like that. Same thing with you, Josh.
I play a lot of sports games.
You play a lot of sports games. I hate sports games, with a passion. And, Will, you play a lot of RPGs.
RPGs and adventure games.
And things like that. And what's funny is Mass Effect is, it's an RPG and a shooter, but should it be a wonder that if a game is so good that three different people with three different tastes enjoy that game? It has something to say to that game.
It's like how Shepard goes in and unifies all the
different races together.
Yeah, Mass Effect does that with the gaming audience.
Because again, even with Fallout, even though I picked New Vegas and you guys picked Fallout 3, that's still a franchise that we've all three enjoyed. And so that has something to say about that company and what kind of games that they make. And so I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, I agreed. So I'm going to jump into my number 2, and it's the BioShock series.
Ooh.
Specifically BioShock Infinite being my favorite of the three.
Okay.
Edging out the first one.
Yeah,
two wasn't terrible. I still really enjoyed 2, even though that one gets kind of a bad rap. But I still really liked the game, and the multiplayer was actually fun in that one as well.
I enjoyed the multiplayer.
But Infinite, I felt kind of had the I like kind of the I'm gonna probably catch a lot of flack from saying this. I liked what's the name of the city you're in?
Oh, Columbia.
Yeah, I kind of like that whole setting more than Rapture. Yeah, even though I can remember Rapture better than Columbia, the name. But I kind of liked how the progression you have with it. Like at first, it's all like super cheery and bright. Then as you play through the whole game, you see it start to get destroyed and become very Rapture-like. Whereas in Rapture, like at first, whenever you're going down and you see the city, you're like, wow. Then immediately it's like it's all been destroyed and everything. With Infinite, you get that nice kind of...
You kind of see what the utopia is supposed to be.
Yeah. You kind of see everything underneath it all. And man, story, what a story Infinite is. And you see what great storytelling is. And that's the good thing about like the BioShock series and their stories. They always have like those twists that you can't really see coming.
It's there. There's going to be a twist.
But when you see the twist and it plays out, you're like, I don't know. Your controller's on the ground and you're like, what?
Mine is blown.
Yeah, and the games are beautiful. The atmosphere, like you talk about like atmospheric games, this game is atmosphere. You're always like drawn into the game. Gameplay is really good. I actually kind of like the more focusing on the shooting in Infinite compared to the other two. The other two were a bit more focused on the powers that you had. The shooting was really well done in Infinite, and I'm the companion character. I was actually really worried about that, how Elizabeth was going to be kind of tailing you the whole time, and escort missions in games are the worst.
Yes.
And I thought that's what this game was going to be, was just one long escort mission, but she kicks some ass. Like, she really helps you out when you run out of ammo. She throws you some ammo, throws you a health pack, throws you like more energy for your powers.
You don't have to worry about her dying.
Exactly. She does a good job of hiding and taking care of herself. And yeah, I mean, I've played through that game like 3 times. I played through the first one like once and a half. Second one just once, but Infinite I played through it 3 times. And it was almost like consecutively too. It was like one right after the other.
And this is something to ponder on too, and this might blow your mind. That was a game that got delayed how many times?
Quite a few.
And it turned out to be a great game. So that just goes to show, if a game gets delayed, it's for a reason, and it's just to make it better. And 2, it was kind of questioned how good it was going to be, because remember at that time, one of the reasons why it got delayed is because people were leaving Irrational Games, and they were going to other places, and people were like, oh my god, they're losing all these people. Is it going to be a great game? And it ended up being a fantastic game. And the reason I bring that up is because people are talking about how so many people are leaving Naughty Dog, and they're wondering if the latest Uncharted is going to be great. I don't know if it's going to be great, but I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing that if people leave a company that you can't put out a really exceptional game.
They can hire me.
Mm.
Yeah, need some new blood in there. Pay me lots of money.
Yeah. Did you play BioShock? Or any of the BioShocks?
I played the first one.
The first one?
Yeah, just didn't trip my trigger. But the way that Will described the Infinite got me interested.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, and now it's a great time to get it because it's super cheap.
yeah.
It's less than $20 everywhere.
Mhm.
You can find it, and it's one that keeps you engaged the whole time. And your character has a voice. Your character in 1 and 2, you were silent the whole time.
Yeah, I don't know if that's the first time, but I think they said that it's rare that happens, right? Because and it might be the first time because I can't think of another shooter where you actually had a voice.
It was like Halo and Halo.
Well, I mean, other than Halo, but
and you look at Half-Life, Gordon Freeman's silent the whole time.
yeah.
In Borderlands, you don't talk at
Your
all.
Call of Duty characters.
Yeah.
Usually they're all silent.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then you had, just all characters were great. And then, okay, I'm not going to say anything because I don't want to ruin it for Josh. So I'm gonna keep quiet about what I was about to say. But you should play the DLC as well. The DLC, again, is done really well. Talk about a series that has really good DLC. The BioShock series does. First one really didn't have any story DLC. It added like a difficulty mode and some extra powers. The second one added actually the Minerva's Den DLC for that game. The story for that is actually better than the actual game, BioShock 2, which I thought the story in BioShock 2 was pretty good. Like the twist, like towards the end, if you were getting all the diaries and stuff, and you see what like ultimately happens, is really kind of cool.
Yeah.
But then Minerva's Den was fantastic, and then the way they closed out Infinite with its DLC again was absolutely fantastic.
I would have to say, Josh, that if you had to pick one of those three, I would pick Infinite. And I love the first one and the second one, BioShock, don't get me wrong. Especially the first one. You're talking about twists. Excellent twist, because it definitely blows your mind. But even have said that, I would go with Infinite first. And then if you really enjoyed that, then I would play the other BioShocks.
Good to know.
Yeah, because then it's more of a straightforward, more like a shooter than the other two are. And a lot of people kind of gave, the shooting mechanics in BioShock Infinite, like they kind of, gave it some flack, but I enjoyed it quite a bit. I didn't see anything really wrong with it.
I did too, yeah.
All right, so that was my number 2. So now, the number one.
Number one.
Number one. All right, Ken, what is your number one game this past console generation?
Okay, so I'm going to say no surprise that my number one is a shooter because of how much I love shooters. But I want to point this out that
Duke Nukem?
no.
Bullet Witch.
No.
Bayonetta.
That it's not, it doesn't count to play it multiple times for multiplayer. I don't think multiplayer counts as playing a game more than once. I actually played the campaign story multiple times. I have to say 4 or 5 times.
That's a go. I want to guess almost.
You want to guess?
I can probably guess.
Well, you might have looked at my notes.
I only saw Mass Effect 2 on there. I didn't see the other ones.
Okay, how about this? You guess. We'll do that too. We'll guess each other's
Mine's
number one.
easy. You know mine.
Yeah, but we can guess Barnes. So.
Okay, yeah, Barnes will be good.
What do you think my number one is?
I think yours is going to be Gears of War.
All right, what do you think?
Yeah, Gears of War.
Gears of War.
Yeah, I was gonna say something else, but you said that, so yeah.
Well, what were you gonna say?
I was thinking one of the Call of Duties for some reason.
Okay.
But because you're ex-military.
Ex-military? No, I'm not ex-military, sir. I am former military.
Whatever.
There's a difference.
Don't get on to me.
Yeah, there's a difference.
What was your number one? What was it? Were we right?
It was Gears of War.
Yeah.
And, the first one, just again, it was a game that revolutionized. Freaking chainsaw and a machine gun. Who would have freaking thought it?
Beautiful game too.
Mm-hmm.
Gorgeous.
Fantastic looking game.
Story, phenomenal. An inspired book series, comic book series. They even talked about doing a movie at one point in time. The multiplayer was awesome. And you talk about DLC, the maps. You actually felt like you got quality maps. out of it. It just wasn't like rehash of stuff. So I couldn't tell you how many hours I put into it. And even going back into it, and even they didn't have dedicated servers, so even the multiplayer, there was a lot of cheating going on and stuff like that. But it was so fun that I looked past all that I actually went into there and just kept playing and playing. And
they really did set up the third-person cover shooter type of gameplay.
Mm-hmm.
Look at games like Gears of War, you probably wouldn't have had a Fallout that would have been quite as good, because that Fallout, shooting mechanic, that third-person shooting style was very similar to what Gears of War. Mass Effect 3
Yeah,
had
Mass Effect was big.
had that same style as well. So Gears of War was kind of the forefront of that.
Yeah, that was like the first big third-person shooter. I remember Resident Evil 4, was kind of a third-person shooter, but Gears of War was like the first big hyped up as a third-person shooter kind of game.
That was one that people picked up like a Halo and Call of Duty, and that didn't start until the Xbox 360. So that was a new IP for the 360 that got just as popular as games that were on the original Xbox, like Halo.
That's been one of the only games that's lived up to the hype, because that game had a lot of hype behind it too. Was marketed a lot, and lived up to it. I love that game as well. That was fantastic.
Well, an interesting factoid too is look at how many people talk bad about it, but they're playing the game. It's like, yeah, this game is so terrible, and they're playing the game there. And it's like, yeah, you do this, and this, and I'm playing online. It's a terrible game. It's like, well, why are you still playing it? I don't know. It's a terrible game, but I'm gonna still play it. And it's okay. That doesn't really make sense, but all right. So
that being said, were you pretty disappointed with the last one that came out?
Second one was great. It did a lot more. It took a game that had already revolutionized shooters and spawned other games, even non-shooters, to mimic its gameplay style. The second one was great and invented on top of that, which was awesome. The third one, again, on top of that, revolutionized stuff. There were some things in there that was, but the story was just, I've never, and this goes to how great the story was on a shooter. There's been RPGs where you can't help but get a little misty-eyed or get emotionally attached to some of the characters.
Yeah.
You can't really say that in a shooter. I'll tell you, in the third one, and I won't spoil it for people that haven't yet played it, and if you haven't played this series, play all three, and you can't tell me in the third one you don't get a little misty-eyed and get a little emotional with some of the stuff that goes on. It's an emotional roller coaster, and it's a shooter. How many shooters can say that it's an emotional roller coaster?
Yeah, the third one really has a great story in it. Talk about a trilogy of games like that, and
It's a good one.
Yeah, that's one trilogy that really closes out really well, and really, concludes itself.
Now, having said that, you talk about the last one, Judgment. I liked Judgment in a sense that I love the Gears of War series. I thought it did change some stuff, but ultimately, I didn't feel like it was a Gears of War game. I enjoyed it. If it was something called other than Gears of War, I think it would be a great game, but to call it Gears of War and what it did, I kind of felt like it was a smack in the face. And that might have been with, Cliff leaving. I don't know.
It wasn't even Epic Games that made it either.
No.
People Can Fly.
Yeah, it's people
Yeah,
did Bulletstorm.
And I like People Can Fly. I really enjoyed Bulletstorm, and I know it got a lot of flack. And I wasn't scared in the sense that they did it, but it just, I don't know. I liked it as a game, but I didn't like it as a Gears of War series. And with Gears of War 4 being announced and coming out, I'm a little bit more leery. I'm probably still going to pick it up day one. But again, the original trilogy, phenomenal game. Phenomenal trilogy.
Yeah, I feel like Judgment was more like a DLC.
Exactly.
Exactly. It's one of those it just feels like tacked on, and it does some good things different. I like the whole where you can kind of pick how you do the mission at the beginning of it. You have these stipulations that you can actually put into place where it's either really foggy, or there's more enemies, or the enemies have this kind of weapon. I thought that was really cool, where you could kind of set those challenges for yourselves. But yeah, as a whole, it just felt the game was kind of
I didn't feel like it was a Gears of War game.
Yeah, exactly.
So.
All right, so Gears of War, great. What were you gonna say?
It's just a phenomenal trilogy. You know, we talked about Mass Effect earlier, where like the second one, first one was okay, the third one, I thoroughly enjoyed all three of them. I wouldn't say that I like one better than the other. As a whole, they're a phenomenal series, and that's why it's my number one pick.
Okay, good choice. All right, Josh, what's your number? Okay, so we're gonna guess Josh's.
We're gonna guess Josh's.
I'm gonna say.
It's hard because I knew he would pick Mass Effect 2.
Yeah,
in his top
I
five.
thought that was gonna be your number one.
It was really close.
Yeah.
And I know he picked Fallout 3. I knew he'd pick that. So I don't know.
I'm gonna guess NCAA football. I don't. Gosh, I don't. NCAA football. I'm gonna stick with that one.
NCAA football. God, I wouldn't even know. Maybe
Candy Crush.
Not Candy Crush.
Call of Duty.
Close. No. I like Call of Duty.
I don't know, because you said Call of Duty for me.
It's like reverse psychology.
Elder Scrolls V. Skyrim.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't even know you played that.
I did play it. I played a bunch. I think that's why it's my number one. I think because of what I was kind of the same thing with you, Will. Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion, I couldn't get into. It was really boring for me. I like the setting. I like that genre, that fantasy, knights and armor and swords and magic, but I just couldn't get into the game. But Skyrim changed that for me. I think with the storyline that set up with this huge open world, that it kind of just turned the table for me, and it made like a really great game to play, and had some great DLC to go with it. The time, just the kind of time and effort you put into it, And I like Fallout 3 so much, and the graphics with Elder Scrolls V just kind of pushed me over the top for it to be my number one, because I know it's going to set up so much more out of that type of that genre and that gameplay style, that this is now the standard for everything else that follows after that with Skyrim. Some of the missions and quests, like finding a dragon. Who would thought that you fought a dragon in Dragon Age, but it wasn't the same way as you finding a dragon in Elder Scrolls. It's flying around, you're pulling out your bow and arrow, trying to take it down. It lands on you, and you have to try and like walk over there and like hack and slash it, and just who would have thought you could take down a dragon in a video game in that kind of way? That kind of thing you see like in the movies and on TV.
Well, what was cool about that game and the dragons is, again, going back to the Borderlands, they created AI with the dragons that no two dragons would act the same way. And they had different difficulty settings on the dragons, but no two dragons acted the same way. One might breathe fire or fly this way or instantly land. And it was funny, and you might remember this, that they had one dragon that was so aggressive and so powerful that they had to actually go in there and tone it down, because it would literally, it went in and attacked everything, villages, livestock, players, and it was killing everything because it was just an angry dragon.
Yeah.
And I thought that was pretty cool.
I remember like with the dragons, I'd be just talking to somebody in a town and going through a quest, and I'd hear like the dragon thing go, and I'm like,
and you go,
no, what? No, not now. Be like going through the dialogue really quickly, or the dragon just like shoots fire down and like kills the NPC, or we're like, no, why did you do that?
Some of the DLC, the Dawn Guard, where you're like a vampire hunter essentially, and they introduced the crossbow into the series. The crossbow was like one of my favorite weapons at that point, especially if you're more of a stealthy guy. So pretty much just crawl through the levels, and with your crossbow, just like aim and shoot and just take them out in one shot, just headshot some people. And then they had I forgot what the name of the DLC, but when you had the house.
Is that Hearthstone?
Hearthfire. Or something like that.
Hearthfire. Hearthstone's the...
Hearthstone?
Hearthstone's the card game. Hearthfire was the
we had your own house, and so you can decorate it and put all your like armor and weapons in there, and that was really cool.
You had little babies.
Little babies, yeah. So yeah, that was my number one. And Mass Effect 2 came really close, but I think with what I look for in a game, Skyrim delivered on every front. That type of open world, immersive gameplay style. I'm a huge Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones type of I like that type of fantasy, so it kind of falls in right with that.
Mhm.
So.
Yeah, that was the only because I played Oblivion and I tried to play Morrowind. I don't know. I just couldn't get into it. But Skyrim is the only one I've actually been able to play through
Yeah.
and complete, just because the story was really good, and then I liked the whole like skill progression thing that they added to it. I thought that was really cool.
And then the music too. There was had awesome music. It was composed really well, and even like months after the game came out, you look up YouTube and look at different people like doing shouts and stuff, and they'll all be doing like "Fushura" and and all different shouts and like incorporating that into YouTube videos. And it kind of came like a cultural thing at first too.
Well, another thing too, and I know we're running long, but we kind of already figured this one would run long with our top 5. That was one where you can implement the Connect, and you can actually say the dragon shouts.
Yeah.
And so you kind of had to like memorize the dragon shouts, because how many were there? It was like 20 or so or more,
There's a lot.
or
Yeah,
30.
there was a bunch.
And you literally had to say it, and the Connect would read it, and it would do it. I thought that was kind of
Yeah,
cool
that was
too.
a cool little addition they had to it, definitely. So now it's time for my number one, and
I think we know.
you
Let's
could
say
probably guess.
I'm gonna say Barbie's Dance Beat 2000. What do you say, Josh?
Just Dance too.
Just Dance 2.
Just Dance is fun. I enjoy the Just Dance games after quite a few beers, and
Like after this podcast.
yeah, probably play some Just Dance after this. Hello Kitty Adventure Island.
Ah,
Almost.
I knew it.
Yeah. Of course, Dark Souls, my number one. The whole Soul series in general is fantastic. I have not, about playing through a game more than once. I've played through
Multiple.
Dark Souls 1 about 20 times since it came out. It's across like all platforms. The online, I played the PvP a lot, did co-op a lot. And yeah, that's a game where you can play through as a melee build. And there's so many different kinds of melee builds you can make that you'll play the game differently. It feels really fresh. And then there's the whole like magic build that you can go down and do that way. And then there's like challenge runs you can do with that game, like level 1 runs or no armor runs. And there's no game I think that's really that kind of you can do that with. You can play through multiple times like that and it feels fresh. And the way it tells its story as well is completely different than any other game. There's no other than like the opening cutscene and the ending cutscene, that's it. There's no other really cutscenes in the game. You get the story mainly from item descriptions, learning about the lore of the game, and then as you're proceeding through, talking to all the NPCs multiple times, and then kind of piecing the story together, like how you're kind of figuring out on your own. And that's one of those games as well where when you're thinking about it, it kind of your whole interpretation on stuff that happens can be different than what someone else thinks of at the same time. And then it's a game completely based on skill. There's only like a couple times in the games where it just feels really cheap and not fair, but for the most part, it's a fair challenge. And it's a game that doesn't hold your hand, which I really like. There's a lot of games nowadays. I mean, we were talking about Assassin's Creed a couple weeks ago that you're still getting tutorials like 20 hours in the game and still like move right thumbstick to look around. Okay, I know that. Dark Souls, it gives you like a bare bones control tutorial at the beginning of the game, and it's just like, go. Like, explore the game on your own, find out stuff on your own. And there's no game that gives that kind of satisfaction that you get with a Souls game.
Well, even then too, you can even miss some of those tutorials because Josh came over to play Dark Souls Tool.
Is that like the Ireland version?
Is the luck of the Irish.
Dark Souls O'Toole.
His vitamin water is kicking in. Very much so.
Oh, jeez.
But he asked me, where do I go? What do I do? I was like, I'm not going to tell you. That's part of the game.
Mm-hmm.
But what's funny watching him play, there's little tutorial things there. And I was like, should I tell him? I was like, nah, let him figure it out. But he passed by all the tutorial stuff. So,
well, that's like in the first game because you have the writing on the ground. You don't even really know what that is. If you're new to the game, like the series, you'll just run past it. You won't even pay any mind to it. And that's like in the second one, it has like the headstones. And that's new. Like I figure that's what it was because stuff isn't in a Souls game just to be in a Souls game. It's there for a purpose, so it's got to be there for something. So you'll look at it and you'll see what it does. But Again, it doesn't. You can miss the tutorial completely in everything, even in Demon Souls.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's what it is. The game is catered to. I mean, you get as much of that out of that game as you're willing to put in, and it's a big time investment. But if you do it, you'll get more out of that game than you will most. And it kind of sucks because I was playing Skyrim at the same time I was playing Dark Souls 1, and I eventually started playing Dark Souls a lot more, and it was really hard to go back and play Skyrim just because the gameplay I felt was better. And it's still that same kind of game, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's very similar.
Yeah, it's that same like dark fantasy kind of setting,
Mm-hmm.
but I just the gameplay is a bit more actiony, I guess, than like a Skyrim is.
Yeah.
And you really feel like it, the hits and stuff. You really feel it with Dark Souls. Like Skyrim is just like kind of, even though that's all the Bethesda games though. It just feels kind of watery, I guess.
Well, I think that's why I liked the Fallout better than the Elder Scrolls, is that when you shoot them, especially if you use your VATS, is it
VATS.
VATS?
Yeah.
VATS.
Yeah, that you can actually, it's like you can almost feel like, ooh, wow, yeah, that looked like that hurt, because you can pinpoint where you want to shoot them. And then you see it in slow mo, and you're like, ooh, and then the
arm explodes off or a head explodes.
Yeah, Elder Scrolls, I never really felt like that. Mm-hmm. I enjoyed Skyrim, and I agree, like what you said. Oblivion, I could not get into. I bought it, and I was like, oh my god,
it's so boring.
I don't even think I completed the first mission.
Interesting fact: Patrick Stewart was the voice of that king.
He was the king.
He was,
and then he got murdered.
And he got killed.
So, but I played Skyrim, and I thoroughly enjoyed Skyrim. Mm-hmm. Not as much as Fallout, but I actually completed that game, and I did quite a bit of the side stuff too.
Yeah, it's just like. Hey, Skyrim I can recommend to anybody.
Yeah.
Like that's why it's so great, is because anyone can really get into it and play it. Dark Souls though, you can't. Like I can't. Like I said, it's my favorite game this past generation, easily one of my favorite games ever. But I can't wholeheartedly recommend it to most people.
To everybody, yeah.
Yeah, that's like I said, it's a game that takes a lot of time.
You're like, so how pissed off do you want to get at your game?
Yeah.
So if you do.
So are you a masochist? Do you like being in pain?
But I think that's part of the lore too, in a sense, not lore inside the game, but to lore to get the game, because I never played Demon Souls. And then when Dark Souls came out, I was like, I didn't know anything about this. And people that had played Demon Souls was telling me about it. I was like, why would you play a game that is so hard to play? I like a challenge, don't get me wrong, but it's like, if it's that hard, what's the point? Like, you got to play it. It's hard to explain, in a sense that once you do get past a boss or even a villain, you have a sense of accomplishment, a satisfaction. And I was like, all right, so I got the Demon Souls, the first one, and yeah, it's a very unforgiving game. I got my butt handed to me. At first, I was like, man, I really hate this game, and I took a break from it, and actually that's when I played Skyrim. And then people just kept going on and on and on how they love Demon Souls and Dark Souls. And I finally went back and was like, all right, let me actually put some time into it.
Yeah, we played through the first one together.
Yeah.
And for a good portion of it, then you kind of started to do stuff on your own because you kind of knew how to play the game.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then I loved it. And then the second one I played pretty much by myself. And I thoroughly enjoyed it too. So it's definitely a game that it's not for everyone, but it can be for everyone if you take the time.
Yeah, it's not going to be one of those games that, it doesn't have a lot of money behind it, so you don't see kind of the graphic fidelity that you do in like a Skyrim or the newest Call of Duty or anything like that. But the game is still, graphically, like artistically, it's beautiful. Mm-hmm. Like just the environments are just so well done. The enemy designs are really well done. The music is very rare that it's there, but when it's there, it's really effective. Like during a really intense boss fight, the music score just like picks up and it really just gets you going. And then when it's not going, it kind of draws you into the game's atmosphere, and it's more about the ambient noise that's going around in the game and around the environment around you. And like I said, it's not perfect. There's no perfect game out there at all, but I mean, this is the best game that kind of all the positives make you kind of forget all the negatives that you see in it. That's why it's my favorite game.
Top 5.
We did it.
Woo!
Yeah. So I appreciate you sticking with us through this top 5. We'll take a little break here and kind of come back and say our goodbyes and tell you about maybe what's going to happen next episode. All right, welcome back to our final segment of this episode.
Woo!
Yeah!
Yeah.
So we're going to do our random question. My random question for this week is kind of tying into our top 5 lists. What do you guys think is the most overrated game of this past console generation?
Ooh. Start with Barnes.
Okay.
What?
Hey, I kind of have mine, so I'll go ahead and start. I kind of have 2 that are kind of tied for me. I'm not saying these games are terrible by any means. I'm just saying that they shouldn't get as much praise as they do. And I'm probably going to get a lot of flack for these 2. But Portal 2, I'm going to say that one's very overrated. I really enjoyed the game overall. But, it's not near one of my favorite games I've played. It just didn't do it for me. I thought, solid game, but not really for me. And my other one is actually going to be Skyrim. I think that's one of my, again, I like the game a lot. It's a really good game, but again, it kind of sucks for it too, the timing, because again, Dark Souls kind of came out at the same time, and that's the one I favored more and got super obsessed with, and Skyrim just kind of, it's not as good as Dark Souls. So, and yeah, those are kind of what I think are the overrated games of the past generation.
All right, I'll tell you mine, even though I told to go with Josh first. And this is kind of funny because I love shooters. I think Call of Duty is just way overhyped. I think they're fun games. I enjoy them. I do get them every time, but I don't think that they're as good as everyone say they are. Like you said, or like how you have to compare every shooter to Call of Duty. Oh my God, people, it's okay to have another shooter that's not like Call of Duty and be enjoyable.
It's not even usually the highest rated shooter every year that it comes out either. Like there's other shooters that get rated better, but it's still that standard for some reason.
Yeah, and some people, and I won't mention names, you're like, Call of Duty is not that good. They like blow up. Like, what are you talking about? It's the best game ever. Every shooter should be Call of Duty. So I just...
Yeah, I agree with that one. Definitely that one's a big overhyped game. Do you have one, Josh?
Now, when we're talking about overhyped, are we talking about more just of like volume, as in like sales, or just like?
See, what game that you've played that you don't really get why people are saying it's so great, like that you just don't understand, like one that you don't really see why it gets all the praise that it does.
Gotcha. So then, that being said, and it almost kind of makes a little more sense now because of the way it kind of turned out, but the Guitar Hero games.
Okay.
And we're going a little further back in the console cycle just because, and it kind of fizzled out itself, but so its own overhype kind of fizzled out.
Yeah, that's a game that got run into the ground.
Yes. Just because for someone I play music, I play a couple different instruments, so that being said, them turning into the game was cool at first, but then just the hype that people had about it, that we would go over and like have like guitar hero parties and like rock band parties, and I would just get bored with it. Like it was just like I like the songs, and I like some of these instruments, but I just wasn't it for me. Yeah, I just couldn't do it.
Yeah, see, like Guitar Hero, like I loved the second one. I played the crap out of that, but then the third one came out and I liked it at first, then I just got bored with it.
And they kind of saturated
after
the market.
a while.
Yeah, the market kind of got saturated with all the games that they came out with, because they came out with the Beatles and the Aerosmith and the Guitar Hero World Tour, trying to create what Rock Band had for itself, and then now we're looking at the end of the console cycle, and people don't even do those games anymore.
Yeah, they don't even remember them.
They don't remember them.
Yeah, Rock Band, I really liked Rock Band for a long time, just because, again, we just have a few people over and get drunk, and it's karaoke essentially is what it is.
Yeah.
But I mean, Guitar Hero didn't have that. It was just the guitar instruments, and those got boring. Even like Rock Band got kind of boring after a while when you've done all the same songs over and over again. But yeah, I totally get that as well.
If I had to pick another one, I would probably say the Call of Duty series, but you already said that, so I
Yeah.
think that was something different.
That's why I wanted to go before you.
Yeah,
That was the obvious thing.
I'm completely sick of Call of Duty.
I'll still play it
I'm
because
tired of it.
it's enjoyable. I'm not saying it's a bad game, but is it the be all, the end all of shooters? No.
I play the story on those and I'm done with them. I don't even mess with the multiplayer. I'll get them when they're like $10,
Mm-hmm.
when the new one comes out. But yeah, those are
They're usually about $5 when the new one comes out.
yeah, pretty much. So yeah, those are our kind of a few of what we think are overhyped games. So appreciate you guys staying around with us for this hour and a half plus episode. When you get into a list like this and you start talking about games you not only like but love, it kind of goes on for a little longer than it normally does. Yeah. So
yeah, plead your case.
Exactly. So again, make sure you guys jump onto the Facebook and the Twitter and the YouTube and the iTunes. We're all over the place, and we really want you guys to interact with us and kind of ask us questions, comments, and stuff, and really appreciate it. And speaking of that, this next week we're kind of foregoing a proper episode and doing like a kind of a game night. I'm picking up Mario Kart for the Wii U this Friday, and we're gonna have the guys over. We're gonna set up a stream. Want you guys to be involved with that and jump on there with us, hang out. We're just gonna be, shooting the shit, kind of just hanging out, talking about different games and stuff. And we want you guys in there to talk back with us, and we'll have that conversation and have a lot of fun. Or if you get Mario Kart, play with us. It'll be a blast. It'll be a lot of fun. And then
Watch out for the turtle shells.
there's actually a way you can get rid of them now.
Oh,
there's
yeah?
a new little power up that eliminates that stupid blue shell.
That
Nice.
blue shell.
That damn blue shell.
We'll probably post like the date and time that we'll do that. We don't have that set
Yeah,
yet.
so once we get kind of those kinks ironed out, we're going to possibly maybe try to get the audio recorder as well and maybe post that to YouTube. I don't know. We'll mess around with it and see what we can do, but at least we're going to try and get a stream set up so we can get like a nice community thing going on. So, but then after that, we're actually going to have a proper podcast episode with Ken will be the host the next time. So do you have like a little teaser?
I do. In view of that E3 is coming up soon, so my topic is going to be conventions. Good, bad. Do we need more? Do we need less? Are they helping the industry or are they not helping the industry?
Okay.
So that's going to be my my topic discussion.
It's going to be an interesting one.
Yeah.
That'll be good. I definitely have some stuff to say on that one. So
It sounds like we'll be talking about maybe less about the content in the convention, just more the business aspect of the convention itself, and I'm on board with that.
yeah, that'll be good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, again, thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. Again, to reiterate, get on the Facebook, Twitter, iTunes, and YouTube, and follow us, like us, comment, let us know what you want to see, and appreciate you guys hanging out with us. My name's Will,
I'm Ken.
And I'm Josh.
And you've been freshly squeezed.